Everybody please welcome the Honorable U.S. Attorney General of the United States of America, the Honorable Loretta Lynch. Salam, Shalom, Peace, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal. My name is Rizwan Jaka, Chair of the Board of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society. I will now introduce the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts for the opening prayer and flag ceremony with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Sister Fatiha Sayed, the Girl Scout, and Sister Hidayah Martinez. And then I will come back and introduce our choir. So thank you so much, everyone. Please remain standing for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to God, the Lord of the universe, the most gracious, the most merciful, Lord of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those whom you have blessed, not those who earned your displeasure, nor those who have gone astray. Ameen.
Peace be with you all. Before we begin, it's an honor to be here. I'd just like to say that as a young woman, a Latina, an Asian, and a descendant of Native Americans, a Muslim, a college student, and a venture scout and a leader in the Boy Scouts of America, I wear the hijab, the headscarf, the same way that the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, did. There's an entire chapter in the Quran that is dedicated to Mary, the mother of Jesus, peace be upon her. As Muslims, we love her and we love Jesus, peace be upon him, and we believe that he is a great messenger of God. This fact is one of the many important commonalities between all our religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism. We have more similarities than differences. In fact, I have beloved family members who are Catholic, Jewish, and of course Muslim, proving that love prevails. Today, as we welcome our Attorney General, the Honorable Loretta Lynch, I wear my flag, United States flag hijab, out of love and hope for our country. With that, I would like to begin today's flag ceremony with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Venture Scouts of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society. Color Guard, attention! Color Guard, forward march. Audience, please place your right hand over your heart. Color Guard, halt. Color Guard, cross the colors. Color Guard, proudly post the flag of the United States of America. Color Guard, proudly post the flag of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Color Guard, honor your colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color Guard, return to rank. Color Guard, about face. Color Guard, forward march. Color Guard, halt. Color Guard, dismiss. Audience, you may be seated.
Another thanks to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts for their dedication and leadership. They represent over 450 Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts here at the All Dulles Area Muslim Society and several thousand American Muslim Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts around the United States of America, serving God and country. Today we gather as one American family. Muslims, Christians, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, and Baha'i leaders. We truly appreciate all of you all, the whole community and leaders here, joining us today at the Adams Center, the second largest mosque in the United States of America, with 11 branches and satellites, with 25,000 Muslims in our congregation. This mosque received an award in the spring from the FBI, from Director Comey, part of the Department of Justice, for the work that we do in community service, national security, and civil rights. And we are truly honored to receive that award. This mosque is a home to active duty Muslims serving in the United States military, veterans of the United States military, and a Gold Star family. We had a community member, Staff Sergeant in the U.S. Army, Ayman Taha, who gave his life for this country, defending freedom and helping those around the world. He lost his life serving this country in 2006. Staff Sergeant Ayman Taha, please keep him in your prayers and his families in their prayers, and all our veterans, all our active duty, and all our Gold Star families. Dear brothers and sisters, our hearts, thoughts, and prayers are with all the people that are affected by hate crimes and all victims of all types of violence and all victims of terrorism. We stand together as Americans of diverse faiths and backgrounds to counter hate crimes. United together, we will reaffirm that we are indeed one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. As American Muslims, we are a diverse community that make up a fabric of enslaved Africans that were Muslim and descendants of enslaved Africans that are Muslim. Children of immigrants, and refugees standing together in love for our beautiful country, the United States of America. We are partners in protecting this great country of ours and defending it and hoping for making sure we're reaffirming civil rights and religious freedom for all. And we are truly honored by the leadership of the Honorable U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, the Honorable Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Vanita Gupta, and all of the Department of Justice staff. A round of applause for all of them for their leadership. I will now invite up the Adams Beat Choir to join us up here for a rendition of Salam and Peace. We have an amazing choir. They're led by Sister Hurinessa Faryad, who is the Vice Principal of our school. And this choir has sang at many interfaith events around the DC metropolitan area. And we welcome them up here to sing Salam and Peace.
'cause it's been spectacular. I love it when we love one another. Give thanks every day for this life, living with a smile on my face. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Spread peace on the earth, cherish the love that is around us. Spread peace on the earth, cherish the love that is around us. Always be kind, always remind one another. Peace on the earth every day. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum, yeah. Spread peace on the earth, cherish the love that is around us. Spread peace on the earth every day.
And they will be coming back at the end for America the Beautiful. Thank you again, Adams Beat Choir. We truly appreciate. Get this here. Thank you again to the Adams Beat Choir. We truly appreciate their dedication, and we will be welcoming them back at the end of the program. Dear brothers and sisters, now I will introduce some of our interfaith leaders in the audience, and then I will introduce our speakers for today. I would like to ask some of our faith leaders to stand. Please hold your applause till the end. We have Pastor Stephen Smith Cobbs, Pastor Joanne Bell Haynes, Pastor David Milam, Sister Nudrat Yunus, Ms. Rima Mal, Mr. Rajesh Guti, Sister Andra Bailus, Dr. Saeed from ISTA Interfaith. We have Dr. Hisham Al-Talib from Triple IT. We also have esteemed government officials, the Honorable Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Mark Herring. We have Supervisor John Faust from Fairfax County. We have Delegate Kathleen Murphy from the Virginia State Delegate House of Delegates. We have Delegate Jennifer Boysko from the Virginia State House of Delegates. Supervisor Quran Sains from Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. And we have Ms. Val, who is representing Supervisor Kristen Umstadt. And a round of applause to those faith leaders. We truly appreciate their dedication, and the government officials for their leadership and dedication. And government officials are faith leaders. They keep and uphold the faith of the United States of America. So thank you so much. Dear brothers and sisters, on the stage we have here, joining us today are esteemed leaders, and I will introduce from my right to the left. We have Ms. Paria Akavan from the Baha'i community. We have Sister Yasmin Shafiq, a board member of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society. We have Mr. Joshua Salam, chaplain here at the Adams Center, veteran of the U.S. Air Force. We have Mr. Sayed Muqtadir, the president of Adams. We have, of course, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Ms. Vanita Gupta. We have the Attorney General of the United States of America, Honorable Loretta Lynch. We have Imam Muhammad Majid, the Executive Imam of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society. We have Pastor Bob Roberts, the Senior Pastor and Founder of Northwood Church from Keller, Texas. We have Rabbi Jerry Sirota, the Executive Director of the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington. We have Pastor Michelle Thomas, the Pastor of Holy and Whole Lifetime Ministries and Freedom Center. We have Dr. Rajwant Singh of the Sikh Council for Education. And we have Udam Samana from the Buddhist community, and Sister Hurinessa Faryad, the choir director. A round of applause for our esteemed faith leaders. With that, dear brothers and sisters, I am honored to give you now Mr. Sayed Muqtadir, the President of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society and the Vice Chair for Muslim Christian Coalition to Protect Middle East Christians. I give you Brother Sayed Muqtadir.
Thank you, Brother Rizwan Jaka.
She's okay?
Thank you. I'm glad we're okay. Actually, if you didn't know, it was planned. I needed some time to unfold my papers, and I told her make a scene out of it. Thank you, Sister Yasmin. Appreciate that. In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, it is indeed a great honor to welcome you, Honorable U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, Assistant U.S. Attorney General for Civil Rights, Vinita Gupta, all of your team members, all of our government officials who are with us today, my dear brothers and sisters of the faith communities, and my beloved leaders of Muslim community. Thank you for coming out here today. I'd like to greet you with the greetings of peace. Peace be with you all. Assalamu alaikum. More than 35 years ago, a few Muslim families settled in Northern Virginia to live the American dream by seeking economic opportunity and religious freedom that the land has to offer to its citizens with its fundamental value of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. As part of their living of the American dream, these families began congregational Friday prayers, Sunday school, and other activities to enrich their devotional lives, which then took shape into a community center that they named the All Dallas Area Muslim Society, or the Adams Center. Today, Adams is governed by 13 democratically elected board members, of which are both men and women, to provide religious and educational services and social activities to several thousand people a week. Adams engages in regular interfaith government relations and social activities, and has one of the largest Boy Scout, Girl Scout, and Cub Scout programs in the area. Adams hosts the Compassionate Health Network, ACHN, a medical clinic that serves in partnership with doctors and volunteers to the broader community regardless of faith. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of a typical American mosque. But the history of American Muslims go far back, and more than 400 years, with some of the pioneers, such as Muhammad Alexander Russell Webb, an early American Muslim, established a mosque and mission in New York in 1893, or the mosque structure built in the United States for the purpose of serving Muslim community in Ross, North Dakota in 1929, or the oldest surviving mosque in Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 1934, or the first clearly documented arrival of Muslims in America in the 17th century with the arrival of African slaves in America. Today, America is home to one of the most diverse Muslim populations in the world, including people of almost every ethnicity, country, and school of thought. American Muslims are present in all walks of life as doctors, engineers, nurses, taxi drivers, lawyers, IT professionals, newspaper vendors, academics, accountants, mechanics, homemakers, athletes, media personnel, entertainers, and much more, to include many Muslim vets that served in every war in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, American Muslims are part of the fabric of American life, and American Muslims represent the diversity of American political landscape, supporting all parties, including Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, liberals, conservatives, or independents. There is no one political platform or agenda for those who practice the religion of Islam in the United States. My brothers and sisters, with decades of research of other religious groups, such as Jews, Protestants, and Catholics, where church attendance and religiosity has been proven to result in higher civic engagement and support core values of American political system that is consistent with the mosque and the increased religiosity of Muslims that increases civic engagement and support for American democratic values. There are over 2,500 mosques in the United States today that are your friendly neighbors, partnering in success of America and helping America's well-being and the economy. We invite all of America to visit a mosque and know more about your Muslim neighbors. Once again, Honorable Attorney General and Assistant Attorney General, thank you so much, and thank you for your team. Thanks for standing in solidarity to all Americans. God bless you, and God bless America. And thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sayyid Muqtadir. We appreciate your words. I would like to ask some of the mosque leadership to please stand. The Adams board members, Mr. Sohail Ahmed, we have Mr. Ihsan Beg, board member of Adams. We also have Mr. Asim Ullah, board member as well. We thank them for their leadership as fellow board members. Oh, and Brother Bob Morrow, board member as well. Thank you so much for your leadership. And also would like to ask the president of NAV, Rafi Ahmed, to please stand. Dr. Yusar Kolok, the president of the DNet Center in Maryland, and also Mr. Asan Dusty, the board member of Islamic Center of Maryland, and Sister Taliba Hassan, board member of Muslim Association of Virginia. Round of applause to mosque leadership, and thank you so much. Also, I'd like to ask Captain Hines from Loudoun County Sheriff's Office to please stand. I want to thank you for your leadership and service to our country. And our Honorable U.S. Attorney Dana Buente, thank you for your leadership and your dedication. And you've heard us remark about the amazing Department of Justice staff standing up for civil rights, standing up for our country, defending our country. I'd like to ask the Department of Justice and the FBI to please stand and get a round of applause from our community. I now am honored to give you and introduce the Imam of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society, Imam Muhammad Majid. He was dubbed by Time magazine as an American Imam, an amazing leader in the United States of America and around the world. I give you Imam Muhammad Majid.
Honorable Attorney General Lynch, Assistant Attorney Gupta, honored guests, members of the Department of Justice, interfaith leaders, and the friends of the Muslim community. I'm honored to welcome you again to Adams Center. We are grateful for your leadership and for standing in solidarity with our community. The Justice Department has often sought to act as a voice of the voiceless. We are proud of the bipartisan American tradition demonstrating here today. And as we heard the Pledge of Allegiance, all of us believe in our heart that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I returned yesterday from Seattle, Washington, where the mosque sign had been vandalized, and a young Muslim woman in New York recently was pushed from the flight of stairs. Muslim men and women are reporting harassment and assault unprecedented levels. We as Americans, we cannot be blind to the cause of these actions. All Americans cherish their God-given right to religious freedom, which is engraved in our Constitution. We must stand and we must understand that attack or intimidation of any religious group is an attack in all religions. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, we must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall hang separately. It is for that reason that American Muslim communities have helped rebuild churches in North Carolina, Pakistan, and now most recently in Egypt. It is why American Muslim religious leadership has the honor of being involved in the Marrakesh Declaration, which seeks to grant religious freedom for minority religions in Muslim-majority countries. Religious liberty is a right given by God Almighty, who tells us in the Holy Quran there is no compulsion in religion. My evangelical brother Bob Roberts, evangelical pastor, sitting here, and I, along with many others, have gone around the country and the world preaching this principle. No one, anywhere, should be intimidated by anyone or any government for practicing any religion the way they see fit. Government has no right to discriminate against anyone based on his or her religion, nor inject itself in ongoing theological debates. Protecting religious freedom is not a democratic issue or Republican issue. Protecting the right to religious expressions, whether we agree with that expression or not, it is not a right-wing issue or left-wing issue. It is an American issue, and we must all protect all of this right together as Americans. Madam Attorney General, I want to express my sincere appreciation for the Department of Justice under your leadership and the great division of the civil rights. And those before you, and I pray for those who come after you. It is my firm belief that it is the impulse of justice is a part of our American DNA. And my fellow religious leaders, all of you, thank you again for joining us today. You are the spirit of America the Beautiful. Your presence shows that the unity of our great country. Because of people like you, America continues to be the shining city on the hill, the beacon of hope for all humankind. May God bless our communities. May God bless all of you. May God bless the United States of America for all the days and years to come.
Thank you so much, Imam Majid. Appreciate your leadership and your remarks. I am now honored to give you someone Imam Majid just mentioned, Pastor Bob Roberts, Senior Pastor and Founder of Northwood Church from the great state of Texas. Don't mess with Texas.
Thank you, Rizwan. It's a tremendous honor to be with you today. I'm very alarmed when I read in the news how that there is a Muslim spike of 67% of hate crimes towards Muslims. That bothers me, and it breaks my heart. I thought we were farther along than that. I am here because I am a Christian. I am an evangelical Christian. In our own research as Southern Baptists, I'm sorry to say to you that I've discovered that my own tribe of Southern Baptists are the #1 group that is more prejudiced towards Muslims than any other group in America, except for Southern Baptist pastors, of which I am one. And so sometimes what it means is we have to challenge our own tribe. And that's why I'm here today, to say that as a Southern Baptist, I want you Muslims to know I love you, I care about you, I support your right of religious freedom. I will stand with you, and I'm not alone. There are many of us. Some are afraid. Tribalism makes cowards of people. They're afraid to speak out and say what the truth is, say what right is, because they don't want to be rejected by their own. I agree with what Imam Majid said. Freedom of religion and human rights in general cannot be a Democratic or Republican issue. It must be an American issue. And unless we have the courage to stand up and say that, we're in trouble. And I fear if we want America to be great, America will not be great unless America does right. That's what makes us great, not merely going back to the past, but moving into the future. We live in a different world today. Don't approach it with fear. Approach it with courage. Don't approach it with isolation. Approach it with enjoyment, knowing that the whole world is present. Today, whatever your ideas are, they have to stand on their own feet. We can point fingers, and there's no doubt about it. Political leaders need to be careful what they say. They can stir things up, or they can tamp them down. They have a responsibility to be wise in their words and their speech. But I cannot control what this party says or that party says. Here's what I can do. I can control what I say, and I can control what I do. And if America is to move out of the current morass that it finds itself in, where we are afraid of everybody from Hispanics to African Americans to immigrants to Muslims, if it's going to change, I'm sorry to say it's not going to change because of our leaders. It's going to change because everyday Americans are going to say, we don't want to live like this anymore. That's why I'm here, at my own expense, so that Majid Muhammad knows I mean it when I say that I love you. And on behalf of those that would, in the name of God, say to Muslims, go home, I would say, please forgive us. It's wrong. It's not right. I passionately believe in religious freedom because it's the ability to own your mind. And whether I agree with your faith or not, you have the right to choose that. And if you don't have the right to choose that, then you have no freedom at all. It's up to us. What are we going to do? How are we going to stand up for one another? Martin Luther King Day is coming. I'm sorry to say we didn't celebrate that Attorney General Lynch in my church for many years, like many white congregations. But about 3 years ago, we began to celebrate it as our church began to diversify. This year, the Sunday before Martin Luther King Day, there'll be 2 mosques that are joining us. And so on Sunday morning, our worship service will not just be black and white, but it'll also be Muslim and Christian, and then halal food served by a lot of Texas lard as well, for those of us that love that. Because we believe that we can be passionate about our faith, and I am passionate about my faith. But being passionate about my faith also means you have the right to practice your faith. So I call upon my fellow evangelical and non-evangelical pastors, connect with your local mosque. I call on Christians, build relationships with your next door neighbor that's a Muslim. Get to know them. It matters. It's time for all of us as Americans to stand up in this time. Thank you very much.
What did I say? Don't mess with Texas. Don't mess with Pastor Bob. We love you, Pastor Bob. Thank you so much for your leadership and partnership. Imam Majid and Pastor Bob, as mentioned, go around the world, here in the United States and around the world, advocating for religious freedom for all, and it is an enduring partnership, and we hope for more of that great work together. Dear brothers and sisters, I am now honored to introduce Rabbi Jerry Sirota. We have amazing partnerships with our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community. The Adams Center has 2 of our 11 locations co-hosted at synagogues. We do an annual Passover Seder here. Rabbi Jerry Sirota is an amazing leader in the Jewish community and the interfaith community, representing so many faiths. I give you the Honorable Rabbi Jerry Sirota.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm pleased to be here. I'm always pleased to be here at Adams, but I'm very sorry to be here for the occasion that we're here because of what's happening in our country. I'm speaking first on behalf of the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington. We represent 11 historic faith communities, the faiths that derive from the Prophet Ibrahim and his wives Sarah and Hajar, but also those faiths that, whose origins are from the East, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism. We are all together in the Interfaith Conference, and all of us are here with you today. We call on people of every faith and of no faith to resist religious bigotry, which has emerged in recent days, to overcome ignorance about our neighbors and the efforts to divide us from our neighbors who may be different from us with regard to race, religion, or national origin. This hatred which has emerged recently does nothing to make us safer. On the contrary, it has three dangerous effects. First, bigotry repudiates American values for which our soldiers of every race and religion and background have given their lives. Second, the hate crimes and hateful comments and bullying give comfort and support to those who would attack our values, our American values of pluralism and freedom of religious expression. When they are directed at our Muslim sisters and brothers, these crimes confirm the propaganda that our country is the enemy of billions of Muslims, peace-loving Muslims worldwide. And third, our fears about those from other countries may destroy America's opportunity to stand as a beacon of hope to refugees who are fleeing persecution, whose acceptance and subsequent contribution to our communities have made this country unique in the world. As our first president, George Washington, wrote, quote, "Happily, the government of the United States gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should comport themselves as good citizens in giving it, on all occasions, their effectual support." When President Washington wrote those words to a Jewish congregation in Newport, Rhode Island in the end of the 18th century, he included the words of the prophets Isaiah and Micah at the end. "Everyone shall sit in safety under his vine or under her fig tree, and there shall be none to make them afraid." Within our Washington area, there can be no doubt of the good citizenship of all of our beloved religious and ethnic communities, nor of their commitment in serving this country and protecting it from enemies foreign and domestic. Furthermore, our houses of worship, with this Adams Center Mosque in particular, stand out as shining examples of support for the most vulnerable neighbors. This community in particular is a leader with its free health clinics and all of the support that it does for the poor and vulnerable in the state of Virginia. And that is true of their sister communities, their sister mosques, their sister gurdwaras, their sister synagogues, and their sister churches. We call on public officials, media personalities, and all of our fellow citizens to repent of their hatred and their ignorance, which threatens us from within at a time when we face clear and present dangers from the enemies who hate our freedom and our values of freedom of religion and our values of welcome for those fleeing oppression. Pastor Bob always inspires me, and I just want to say from my perspective as a rabbi and a member of the Jewish community, and I'm not speaking just for myself, I've heard my fellow rabbis and Jews, men and women, who have said that if, God forbid, this country moves to something that registers citizens by their religion or by their national origin, we will be in the front of the line. If they ask Muslims to register, we will be there. I will be there. My brothers and sisters will be there. We will not allow this to happen. It happened to us in other countries. It's not going to happen in this country without the support, without the identification of those in my community and other religious communities with those of you who are part of the Muslim community. Thank you. Thank you for Adams for being Adams.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Jerry, for your leadership of leading all faith traditions in this area for interfaith harmony. I'm now honored to introduce Pastor Michelle Thomas, Holy and Whole Life-Changing Ministries International, and also president of the Freedom Center, uplifting African-American history in Loudoun County and inspiring people all around the country. I give you Pastor Michelle Thomas.
The most pressing issue of our time in America is not climate change. Is not climate change. It is not the economy. It is not issues that we think normally is related to people. It is really the issue of race. It's really the issue of injustice. And it's not garnered, it's not monopolized by African Americans. African Americans don't own the uptick of racism, of violence, of tragedies that's facing our country. It is owned by those people that look just like you and me. We don't deserve it. We stand against it. I've learned a lot by being open to the Adams Center. I founded a Freedom Center where I thought that I was going to specialize in African American history in Loudoun County, only to find out that African American history is not set apart from Muslim history. That we are literally one, that when people were brought here from Africa and enslaved, 30% of them were Muslims. And so as our Freedom Foundation seeks to reclaim those parts of our history and reclaim slave cemeteries or cemeteries of the enslaved countywide, I can no longer do that with in good conscience thinking that I'm just paying homage to African Americans. We are one. We are united. We must stand together. There is no tolerance for what is going on in America. We can take back the power. Unity takes back the power of hate. Hate is an issue of national security. This thing called justice or injustice, Attorney Mark Heron, is an issue of national security and should be taken seriously. Should be taken seriously, not just by the communities that are affronted, but those communities that love freedom. We must stand together. We must speak loudly together. We must educate our children together. We must worship and pray to our God together. And we must move this country forward together in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much, Pastor Michelle, for your leadership and your inspiration. We are truly honored. I'm now honored to introduce Dr. Rajwant Singh, the founder and chairman of the Sikh Council on Religion and Education and a board member of the Interfaith Conference of Metropolitan Washington. We appreciate his leadership. I give you Dr. Rajwant Singh. Sat Sri Akal.
The way Rizwan introduces somebody creates so much excitement. But thank you so much for his leadership. He's just a wonderful pillar of the interfaith relations in the Washington area. Honorable Attorney General, we are really blessed with your presence here today. Your predecessor and yourself have led the Department of Justice in the new direction of providing strength and support and embrace to so many of us, people of all different religions, especially the Muslim, the Sikh community, the Hindu community, and especially the tracking of the hate crimes, which was introduced under the Obama administration in the Department of Justice. So we're very thankful. And the Sikh community has been here from last 100 years, and a lot of Americans have still not discovered us yet. And when I go out on the street, most of the Americans think I'm a Muslim. And I am happy to be identified that way, especially now when there will be a Muslim registry as the talk is being made. We will be proud to call ourselves Muslims if there's that juncture comes in the United States. Even if it means that there'll be more hate crimes against the turban-wearing Sikhs, so be it. So, our faith, the Sikh faith, started 500 years ago. The founder of the faith traveled for 37 years. And you know who he chose to take him along with him? It was a Muslim guy who was a musician. And these two guys traveled all around for 37 years, preaching the message of love and mutual respect. And that is what the symbolism that I carry with this turban, which stands for justice, human rights, and peace and harmony. And today I chose to, like my friend Harpreet Moka is wearing a red color, preparing for the holiday season. And I chose the color which symbolizes spring. That even though we have just hit by a storm in the United States, but believe me, we are all going to work for bringing a spring in the United States. And there is another important point. There's a beautiful story. The founder of the faith, Guru Nanak, went to a city, outside of the city, and people of the village, all the learned elders, sent him a bowl filled with milk to the brim, saying that we don't need you anymore because we have enough learned people, we have enough scholars, and all the teachers are here in this town. We don't need another one. And you know, Guru Nanak got the message, and he sent back this bowl of milk, and he put a little petal of flower on top of it. And the message was that we are not here to take any space. We are here to create fragrance. And each faith in the United States, each immigrant which comes here with a hope to raise his or her family, is really here to create fragrance and to strengthen America. We have done it from last 100 years. We have done it from last 200 years. America's journey is Sikh journey, is a Muslim journey, is a Buddhist journey. It's not just one people who have built this nation. All people come together have built this nation. So our message is, what I would like to repeat, is what is written in our scripture is, Sab mein jyot jyot hai soe. That we all, each one of us has a divine light which has been blessed, which has been given to us as a gift by our Creator. And we are here to shine that light each day, every moment of our life. This day chanan sab mein chan hoye, gur sakhi jyot pargat hoye. So may God bless each one of us. Now we all need to strengthen each other. We should be praying for Muslims, Muslims should be praying for Hindus, Hindus should be praying for Jews. That's what's going to make this country much stronger and a beacon of hope for all times to come. And especially, we must create a safe space for our children. I was in Sacramento about a month ago, and a Sikh mother came to me, and she said, this is a 6th grader, and the child doesn't even wear a turban. And the 6th grader was told by his closest friend that, I'm sorry, we are not going to be friends anymore because after election you will be leaving. Just imagine the kind of fear that is being created for the children, and not just for the Sikh children, for all children. Our county in Montgomery County, which is the most diverse county, in a high school there have been 3 swastika painted in last 1 month. So that is an atmosphere which cannot be tolerated. We have to create safe spaces for our children. And because that is what the future is. We're all going to be gone in 30, 40 years. Most of us will be not here. But those children who are now will be raised under a very fearful environment. That is what I'm very much worried about. And that is what we need to be making sure that we don't leave that kind of legacy for our future generations. May God bless you all. And may God bless all the soldiers of Department of Justice and FBI who have really worked hard day and night to protect all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajwan Singh. Appreciate your leadership and partnership. I'm going to ask Mr. Rajesh Guti to please join us up here. And because of scheduling, I'm going to ask the other leaders to just please stand and be recognized. Again, Udam Sumana from the Buddhist community, Mr. Rajesh Guti from the Hindu community, and Mr. Pariya Akaban from the Baha'i community. Please stand. And thank you again for your leadership. And I also would like to ask Mr. Joshua Salam to please stand. He is the chaplain here at the Adams Center, past youth director, and a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Thank you for your service to our nation. I'm now honored to introduce Sister Yasmin Shafiq, board member of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society, to introduce the Attorney General of the United States of America. I give you Ms. Yasmin Shafiq.
Good morning. I think it's still morning, right? Okay. I was trying to come up with some kind of analogy for me falling out. I couldn't. It's too silly. Sometimes I didn't get hurt at all, so it's funny. So sometimes we just need some comic relief. All right. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Yasmin Shafiq, and I have the honor of welcoming our Attorney General to the podium in a moment. I am someone who grew up in this very Muslim community, this very American community that we call the Adams Center. I learned to be an outspoken and confident, sometimes klutzy, female leader here. And for the past 5 years, I've had the opportunity to serve on the organization's board. Growing up here in America and at Adams, I've both observed and experienced the growth and the development of the Muslim American community. And I must say, it is strange times. Strange times that are worthy of special attention. See, I grew up here learning a faith informed by love, compassion, and inclusion. My faith informs all that I do, and it informs why I'm such a patriotic American. So it's really painful to be faced with a false narrative by those who wish to undermine who I am, who we are. I imagine you, Attorney General Lynch, have faced similar challenges in your decorated legal career. You are the first female African-American U.S. Attorney General. You've fought public corruption in New York City. You've fought for our civil rights. You even worked pro bono for the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda to prosecute those responsible for egregious human rights violations. You are a champion, a superhero, if you will, maybe without the cape. I'm hopeful that you will continue to work for justice for a very long time to come, and even after leaving your post, because we need you, and people just like you, to do the kind of work that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the U.S. Attorney General, Ms. Loretta Lynch.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Thank you for coming here today. Let me also say assalamu alaikum to everyone here today. Yasmin, thank you so much for that warm introduction. You mentioned that you did not have an analogy for our little excitement on stage, but I actually think you do. Because Yasmin, when you fell, everyone came to help. And that is the story that we have to tell today. When one of us falls, we all have to step up, without regard for our own safety, without knowing what lay behind that curtain. Everyone went to help. When one of us is threatened, we all have to speak out, regardless of the discomfort it may call upon us. When one of us is in harm's way, we're all in harm's way. And that is the story of today's event. And Yasmin, I want to thank you for illustrating that for us today. I could sit down now, but being from the long line of Baptist ministers, you know that I won't. But let me thank all of the faith leaders, all of the community leaders, all of the members of this beautiful mosque who've come together and welcomed me so beautifully this morning. And can we also, once again, just have another hand for all of our children who did so well this morning. They're the reason that we're here. They're the reason that we do this work. And for all of you parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, yes, all your hard work and making them practice paid off, because they are beautiful and they represented you so well. I want to thank all the inspiring faith leaders who spoke before me for their moving words, but most importantly for their commitment, for their recognition that the God that we all share does not see a difference when he looks at us. He just sees his children. And when we hurt, he hurts. And as we saw before, when one of us is hurt, we all have to step in. So let me thank all of you, the faith leaders, the community leaders, the activists who are here, the advocates who are here, for everything that you do all day, every day, to strengthen, to empower all of our communities. Thank you so much. I'm tremendously honored to be here today, to be here in this space, and most importantly, in front of this audience. Because we're all here today in this mosque as men and women of all races, all creeds, all colors. Now, some of us were born in the United States, our immigration status having been resolved some generations ago, but immigrants nonetheless. And some of us came here more recently in search of a better life. We may speak different languages. We may read from different books of Scripture. We may call our God by different names. But we all love this country. We all love the ideals for which it stands. And we're all committed to upholding them. We all want our children to lead lives of safety and opportunity. And we all proudly claim the title of American. And as Justice Brandeis proclaimed, we all bear the most important political office there is, that of private citizen. That is our strength. That is our bond. We are all together in this. And here, today, I see a living expression of the American promise, a living picture of America, the conviction that every person's dignity is inherent and is equal. Now, we know that that promise is as old as our nation itself. 240 years ago, 2 centuries and 2 years, our forefathers boldly proclaimed that all men are created equal. And of course, when those words were written, they had a ways to go, because there was a gap between America's founding ideals and America's founding reality, because the very hand that put those words on parchment had also signed deeds for the sale and purchase of other human beings. And for many of our ancestors, for women, for African Americans, for Native Americans, for all immigrants and countless others, the promise of American life rang hollow for far too long. But those words, clear and plain as they were too powerful. They were too self-evident, in Jefferson's words, for that state of affairs to endure, because generation after generation of Americans heard that promise. They read those words. They took them to heart, and they demanded that they be fulfilled. And they stood up, women who endured ridicule and condescension just for seeking the right to vote. African American soldiers who defended freedom overseas only to return home to a nation that would not let them vote, and that sometimes even repaid their service with violence. The marchers who braved the jaws of police dogs in Birmingham and the cattle prize at Selma, the LGBT individuals who fought for their civil rights at Stonewall Inn. All of these are examples of courage and determination of these individuals and countless others who've come before us, but they also illustrate the great truth that every generation must keep this battle anew. Every generation must push this country ever forward to fulfill those promises. Now, we have built a society that is so much further along, that so much more fully reflects our founding creeds of liberty and justice for all. But our work is not finished. We have been challenged on these and so many other fronts. As we are all aware, this work is never finished. Now, as we've talked about, just last month, the FBI released its statistics on the number of hate crimes committed in 2015. That's not even this year. And already we see the disturbing trend, the sobering indication of how much more work remains to be done. Now, overall, the number of reported hate crimes increased 6% from 2014, and that figure includes increases in hate crimes committed against Jewish Americans, African Americans, LGBT Americans, but perhaps most troublingly of all, it showed a 67% increase in hate crimes committed against Muslim Americans. This is the highest total of anti-Muslim incidents since 2001, when 9/11 itself spurred so many reprehensible acts. And we know that there are many more hate crimes in communities, in all communities across this country, that go unreported. And what we also know is that it's easy to talk about the numbers and the statistics, and the report is out. But behind every number is a person. Behind every statistic is someone whose rights have been violated. Behind the pages of the reports lie communities who are now more afraid than before, and more afraid than any American should ever feel. And all of us have seen the recent flurry of news reports about hate crimes and harassment. We have seen the stories where hijabs have been yanked off of women's heads, literally off of women's heads, to the swastikas that are sprayed on the sides of synagogues, to the slurs and the epithets that are hurled in classrooms. The story that was told about the young boy who was told he would no longer have a friend or a place in this country. That's what's behind all of those numbers. And I say to you again, when one of us is threatened, all of us are threatened. When one of us falls, we all have to help. That is our obligation. That is our commitment. That's the pledge we've all made as citizens. And the Department of Justice is working on these issues. Our FBI is working with local authorities to review multiple incidents. Our agents and prosecutors are working to assess whether their cases constitute violations of federal law, but we will provide our support nonetheless. Because these statistics, these numbers, and more importantly, the people behind them, should be of concern to every American, regardless of faith, regardless of background, regardless of whether you are involved or not. Because hate crimes target more than just the individual at that time. They target the fabric of our communities. They also stain our dearest ideals. They stain our nation's very soul. There is a thread. It is pernicious, but it is strong. There is a thread that connects the act of violence against a woman wearing a hijab to the assault on a transgender man, to the tragic deaths of 9 innocent African Americans during Bible study at Mother Emanuel in Charleston. There is a thread that links all of those. And when one of us is threatened, all of us are threatened. When one of us falls, we all must step in. As President Obama has said, it is the moment that we fail to see in another our common humanity, the very moment when we fail to recognize in a person the same hopes and fears, the same passions and imperfections, the same dreams that we all share. That's the moment that we see. That's what's illustrated by this thread that runs through all of these issues. And the reason why we have So many people here today, such a beautiful cross-section of this wonderful community. Leaders from so many different faiths, people who work in so many different areas, is because we all believe so deeply in certain common values. Regardless of our faith, regardless of how we denominate that faith, what we call ourselves, we all believe that we must treat others as we would wish to be treated. Regardless of the name of our denomination or our faith, we believe that every individual is precious. Regardless of the title over the church or synagogue or mosque or house of worship that we attend, we believe in our common humanity. And we all believe that, in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's why the Department of Justice, which I am so proud to lead, and the entire Obama administration regards hate crimes with the utmost seriousness, whether they target individuals because of their race, their religion, their gender, or their sexual orientation. And that is why we have worked so tirelessly over the last several years to bring those who perpetrate these heinous deeds to justice. That is our function. But we look beyond just the walls of our own building, out into the community, because when one of us falls, we all must step up. Now, a cornerstone of our work, of course, is investigating and prosecuting hate crimes against Muslim Americans, as well as those perceived to be Muslim. It was, of course, after 9/11, the first individual to be targeted in a perceived Muslim attack was, in fact, a Sikh individual in the Southwest. Muslim Americans, Sikh Americans, Hindu Americans, all practitioners of all faiths, you are our friends, you're our family members. The history of African Americans in this country is, of course, a history of Muslim Americans. We have our Muslim American friends, neighbors, doctors, nurses, police officers, our firefighters, our business owners, our teachers. Thousands of Muslim Americans have fought under the flag that we all pledged allegiance to today. Thousands of them. Thousands have made the ultimate sacrifice to that flag. Because when they pledged their allegiance to the republic for which it stands, they knew that it might call on them to lay down their life, and they did so for all of us. For all of us. And yet, too often, especially in this last year, especially following a number of tragic terrorist incidents and amidst an increase in some of the most divisive and fearful rhetoric we have seen in years, we've seen Muslim Americans targeted. We've seen them demonized simply because of their faith. Of their faith. Of how people choose to worship a loving and merciful God. And I have to say to you, it is clear, my friends, to invoke a blanket stereotype, to characterize any members of any faith because of the actions of some who pervert that faith, is to take our nation backwards. It's to go backwards in our thought. It's to go backwards in our discourse. And in fact, it is to insult, it is to repudiate those who founded this great country. What is our First Amendment? The very first one. It guarantees the freedom of religion in that first clause. That's how we came to be, and that's what we have to remember. And that's why the Department of Justice has moved to prosecute the actions that are demonstrated by this ignorance and by this fear and by this hatred. And that's why I'm so pleased that Benita Gupta is here with me today. She leads the Civil Rights Department, an outstanding group of dedicated professionals who have given most of their time, they work all day and well into the night, defending the rights of every American. I'm also so pleased that my U.S. Attorney from Eastern Virginia, Dana Bente, is here, because Dana and so many other U.S. attorneys work with the Civil Rights Division to defend the rights of all Americans, but particularly where we are seeing this increase in hate crimes. The Civil Rights Division has recently convicted a Connecticut man for firing a high-powered rifle at a mosque, shooting at a house of worship. How un-American is that? We've recently convicted a Florida man for threatening to firebomb 2 mosques and to shoot their congregants. A Missouri man for the arson of a local mosque there, and a North Carolina man, sadly from my own home state, who yelled at a young woman and tore off her hijab on an airplane, where she had every right to be. And in October, our National Security Division charged 3 men in connection with their plot to detonate bombs at an apartment complex in Garden City, Kansas, which included a mosque, where many members of the local Somali immigrant community gather regularly to pray. Now, these are just a few examples of the Justice Department's recent prosecutions. And while we are tremendously proud to do this work and uphold these values, our greatest wish is that they had never occurred. That is, of course, what we have to work on. But there are so many other matters that we, in close partnership with our state and local law enforcement partners, are still investigating. One area that is of great importance to us is our work to protect the rights of religious communities to build houses of worship without unlawful interference or harassment. Just the right to build a house of worship, a place to come together to pray and to honor God. But unfortunately, that task of protecting this right has become more urgent in recent years. Members of the Civil Rights Division have heard repeatedly about more overt discrimination in both the tone and the framing of objections to planned religious institutions, especially mosques and Islamic centers. Now, our primary tool to combat such discrimination is a statute that we've used repeatedly. It's called the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. It's called RLUPA for short. And since September of 2010, that's just in the last 6 years, we have opened 50 RLUPA land use investigations. We have filed 10 lawsuits involving land use, and we have filed 8 amicus briefs in private parties' RLUPA cases to inform the courts about the law's provisions and its requirements. And in the last 6 years, 38% of the Civil Rights Division's RLUPA land use cases involved mosques or Islamic schools. 38%. This is a dramatic increase in the percentage of those cases brought during the previous decade. Now, of course, we all know that religious institutions are not the only vulnerable spaces that we are determined to keep free of hatred and bias. Because we all know, in order for our children to learn and thrive, in order for them to do what they did so beautifully here today, they need access to safe and inclusive classrooms. Earlier this year, the Civil Rights Division launched a new initiative with our U.S. Attorney's offices, and that will significantly advance our ability to address religious discrimination in schools. Because the place where you go to school should be a place where our children's minds are opened to other ways of thinking, are opened to different religions, are opened to different cultures, not closed off and made to learn to hate other children. Now, I'm also so pleased that the head of my Community Relations Service, or CRS, Paul Montero, is here today. Paul and the CRS work so hard to ease tensions and promote understanding in communities and schools that have been rocked by traumatic incidents. They go in, not to do an investigation, but to help people heal, literally. Now, just by way of one example, after a young woman was allegedly forced to remove her hijab in school in Massachusetts, the school actually invited CRS to come in to work with them to present its Arab, Muslim, and Sikh cultural awareness program to the school's staff so they could better handle such situations in the future. We also, through CRS, has just appointed its first ever national program manager for Muslim, Arab, Sikh, and South Asian communities. And I'm so pleased that Harpreet Singh Mocha has joined us here today. Thank you for taking on this task. Now, of course, we're also concerned about the crimes against our LGBT brothers and sisters. In October, we commemorated the 7th anniversary of the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act, which expanded the federal definition of hate crimes to include crimes based on gender, disability, gender identity, and sexual orientation. And here, too, we've been active. We have been active using this tool. We've brought a number of hate crimes cases in states around the country. And I'm actually traveling to New York tomorrow to meet with LGBT youth to reaffirm the Department of Justice's steadfast commitment to the rights and the well-being of all Americans, including our LGBT family members. Now, these are all important efforts. We are so proud to carry them out. Their impact has actually been amplified by the outstanding partnership we have with our local law enforcement agencies, from state attorneys general to sheriffs to police departments across this country. And our efforts to work with them in training our local and federal agencies in how to recognize and investigate hate crimes, how to engage with communities, and how to better encourage hate crimes reporting and data collection. And all of these initiatives have helped us tremendously to forge the partnerships I just referenced, which are so important in bringing the community's needs to the fore. The partnership between law enforcement and the communities that we serve. And I'm not only hopeful, I know that these partnerships will serve as a bulwark against hate crimes for years to come. Now, I am so encouraged by what we've accomplished together over the last 8 years. A few points I've been proud to mention today. But I also know, I know that we face challenges in the years ahead. We face challenges that will require the Department of Justice to remain an active force for good in communities from coast to coast. Our federal hate crimes laws are among the most powerful tools we have for creating a more just and a more equal nation. And career Justice Department prosecutors will continue to enforce them. We will be here. The career men and women of the department will be here. But we also need all of you. We need you to be our eyes and ears. We need you to raise issues to the fore. We need you to work in partnership with us. Because I know that so many Americans are feeling uncertainty, are feeling anxiety, are feeling fear, frankly, as we witness this recent eruption of divisive rhetoric, as we note the hateful deeds that we've been talking about. And I know that many Americans are wondering, are they in danger simply because of the way they look or where they pray? And I know that some are also wondering if the progress that we have made at such great cost and over so many years is in danger of sliding backwards. I understand all these feelings. I see all of that when I meet with groups and I travel the community. And I also know that as we continue to demand a nation where all people are treated equally and fairly, we will be met with prejudice, bigotry, and condemnation. That is also a sad part of our history. But I also know that we have come, as we say in my church, a mighty long way. And there was nothing preordained about it. There was nothing guaranteed about our march toward a more just and peaceful future, and there never have been guarantees. This has always been hard. It always has been hard. Our centuries-long project, this wonderful experiment in democracy that we are all in the midst of, our goal of creating a more perfect union. That's not fate. That's not destiny. That is the result of countless individuals, some well-known, some whose names we will never know, some famous, some invisible. They all made the choice to stand up, to demand recognition, to refuse to rest, until they knew that their children would inherit a nation that was more tolerant, more inclusive, and more equal. Ordinary people just like all of you here today. They were the ones who made the progress that we celebrate. They were the ones who gave us the examples that we use in the cases that we make. And that's why it is so fitting that we're here today in this beautiful house of worship, this place of deep and fundamental faith, because it has been the faith that has sustained this fight since the beginning. Faith that a small upstart colony could take on the greatest power in the world and build a new country founded on freedom and equality. Faith that this new nation could in fact survive the original sin that it never resolved and survive a divisive and bloody civil war. Faith that it could in fact overcome that and live up to its ideals. And not just faith, but the works that made that faith reality is what we celebrate here today, and that's what it gives us the courage to move on when there is no guarantee of success. That has been the harbinger of every movement in this country. People throwing themselves into the fight without a guarantee, but simply the knowledge that they were working towards what is right. And I think of examples even from my own life. Two members of my own family who also happen to be faith leaders. I think of them often, my grandfather and my father, because they both lived in the southern part of this country at a time when this country regarded them as less than fully human, simply because of the color of their skin. And they both did their part to make this country a little bit more free and a little bit more fair, but they had no idea how it would turn out. My grandfather was a preacher and a sharecropper in 1930s North Carolina, where in the middle of the night on a dark road, there were no equal rights, there were no Miranda rights, there was no equal protection. And he used to hide neighbors who were in trouble with the law under the floorboards of his home until they could leave the state to safety. And a generation later, my own father, who had seen this, would let civil rights groups use the basement of his Greensboro, North Carolina church to organize sit-ins and protests at North Carolina with the students at A&T. Neither one of them knew the results of those actions. Both of them lived in fear for the possible consequences. And they were acts of enormous courage, but also in acts of enormous faith and hope. Because there were two men living in a country that even years apart still put obstacles in the way of them from even voting or living their lives. That told them they couldn't use certain drinking fountains. That told them when the Declaration of Independence said all men are created equal, it wasn't referring to them. And that's just their experience. There are so many other groups who have had those same words thrown in their faces as well. But my father and my grandfather knew what those words meant. They chose to act accordingly. They knew their portion of fear, they knew their portion of anger, but they also never lost their hope that although this country was far from perfect, it was certainly capable of doing much better. And they both risked a great deal for that, never knowing how it would turn out. Never imagining that the daughter of one and the granddaughter of the other would one day be the chief law enforcement officer of this country. Now, my friends, that hope is still alive in this country. That faith is still here in this country. That ability to face incredible odds with nothing but the desire and the knowledge that you are entitled to the rights of every American, is still in this country. Because you and I know that when the Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal, it means us. It does mean us. And you and I know that when the Constitution says we the people, it means us. And that's the strength of this country and the backbone of this country. And so as we leave here today, united in the knowledge that those are our words, these are our ideals, this is our fight, let us leave here united in our confidence, inspired by our faith and strengthened by our courage. Let us all leave here with a renewed commitment to demanding nothing less than a country that is true to its founding promises. And let us leave here in faith and in hope. The same faith and hope that has brought this country so far, 2 centuries and 2 years, and it will carry us even further. Now, is it going to be hard? Yes. It's always been hard. Will there be challenges ahead? We have always known that the price of freedom is constant vigilance. We have to work to maintain not just the gains, but to make advances. But of course the question, particularly in these times of concern and anxiety, I know, the question is, will we persevere? Will we succeed? We always have. We have moved this country forward bit by bit, day by day, right by right. From where will we get the strength? Allow me to quote from a spiritual from my faith, made famous by the late Mahalia Jackson. She used to sing, "Lord, don't move this mountain, but give me the strength to climb." That call to a greater power. That call to the faith that is recognized by all people here today. That call to persevere, no matter how high that mountain looks. We have accomplished so much, but there is so much more to do. But that's what we do. That's what we do as Americans. That's what we do as people of faith. That's what we do as people of hope. We keep moving. We push forward. So let me thank you for letting me spend just a few minutes with you today to talk about the country that we all love and the future that we all cherish, but the work that we all have to do. But thank you also for all that you are already doing in your congregations, in your communities, in your homes, in your classrooms, to vindicate the promise of American life. Now, my time as the Attorney General is coming to a close. But to everything there's a season. But the work does not stop. And I pledge to you that my commitment to these values and these ideals in this work will not stop. I will continue to stand beside you in the cause of liberty and justice for all, sharing with you what Justice Brandeis said is the highest office in the land, that of private citizen, and the most powerful. Thank you so very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable U.S. Attorney General of the United States of America, Loretta Lynch. We thank her for her leadership, her dedication, her standing up for justice and civil rights for all Americans. Thank you so much. And thank you to the whole Department of Justice, FBI, protecting our civil rights, protecting our country, for national security, for all. I'm going to invite up the choir to conclude with America the Beautiful. Please join us up here. And please have a seat, everyone, for this final prayer for our country going forward. We will remain optimistic We will remain hopeful. everyone to remember this picture as we take pictures. The scouts, please join us up here in the front. In the front stage. I want all of you to remember this picture. This is a picture of America. We have the faith leaders. Also the other faith leaders from the front row, please join us right here as well. Pastor Dave, Pastor Joanne. This is a picture of America that everyone should remember. We stand shoulder to shoulder. Young Americans, all Americans, people of all faiths and backgrounds. For civil rights, for security, for love, harmony, and peace. Serving God and country. We are truly honored by the leadership and partnership of everyone here. May God help us all. May God keep us all to live up to the ideals of this great country. We know not what lies ahead, except that we will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We will uphold the ideals. We will live the dream. We will stand together for peace, harmony, respect, and love. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Honorable Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Thank you to the whole Department of Justice, to all of you, to all leaders. Peace be with you. God bless America.